Christian. So he's the executive director for Global Chamber Hermosillo, and he's going to be talking about the Sonora Crickets a little bit, which, yes, Jeff, I'm also excited to hear about it. And so I think he's been interested in those since 2014 in the edible insect field. And so he's got 15 plus years of experience consulting and coaching the small and medium-sized business enterprises. And so I'm very excited to hear about his experience a little bit and what he has to tell us about the edible insects and the Sonora crickets. So go ahead, Christian.
Oops, looks like we just lost him.
We just lost him. So
yeah, good. Just kidding, right?
Yay, technology.
I'm sure he'll be back in just a moment. But
it's just, the jitters. He's nervous, stage fright. So,
I think it's the crickets, man. They're taking over.
Here he comes.
So has anybody here ever eaten a cricket before?
Yes.
I have.
Okay. I haven't. I'm curious if Christian has samples to pass around.
All right. So, Chris, if you're ready, yeah, we can hear you. Your video is paused.
A little blurry?
Yeah, a little blurry,
Yeah.
but a little pause too. It kind of goes in and out.
Okay.
There we go. That's pretty clear.
Yeah, almost there. Let me see if now we can get some better lighting.
Audio is coming better.
Okay.
True, so yeah.
Could you please let me share screen too?
Oh, sure. Here. Got that. Just one moment.
So how long can I take this conversation, or then we jump into, well, I mean, feel free to ask any questions during the presentation if you'd like.
Yeah, it's usually pretty informal, Chris. What we do is, it's usually pretty informal. So, take 20 minutes or 25 minutes. And, if we have questions as we go through, I hope you don't mind if we interrupt you and
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah, that'll be good. Okay, great. Let's start then. Hello, everyone. I'm Christian Aguirre, and I am the Executive Director for Global Chamber in Northwest Mexico. I'm located in the city of Hermosillo, Sonora, which is, Sonora is a border state to the state of Arizona, right on the south. And the city of Hermosillo is located around 270 kilometers, 160 miles from the US border. So we are kind of a bit separated from central Mexico. We are quite far. For us, it is easier to go to Arizona, visit Tucson, visit Phoenix, even California, compared to going to Guadalajara or Monterrey or Mexico City, which are the main cities in our country, right? And today I want to talk to you about another subject which I've been becoming quite passionate about in the past 6 to 7 years. And that is the subject called entomophagy, which is the consumption of insects. So I will share this presentation with you, and I'll be telling you about my journey on the matter and how I'm looking to create the first cricket farm in Northwest Mexico. So for those who didn't know, the practice of eating insects is known as entomophagy. That is the term, and entomology is the study of insects, but the consumption or eating insects is known as entomophagy. My interest in this matter, cricket farming, insects, edible insects, started back in 2014 when I started learning about new farms that were developing actually in the United States. And one particular farm was known as Big Cricket Farms, and it was located in Youngstown, Ohio. And I started following this cricket farmer, which I will talk about him in a few minutes, and learn about the matter of cricket farming. It became interesting for me. And then also cricket farmers or whoever likes to talk about edible insects, we use a document. We talk a lot about a document that was created back in 2013, which is a document created by the United Nations and FAO. And it's the name of the document is this one: Edible Insects, Future Prospects for Food and Feed Security. And it easily stated many things. So one of the main points was that by the year 2050, we would have billions of pets. I mean, well, 0.2 billion pets, 20 billion livestock animals, and of course, as the human population would keep growing, we would be close to hitting the 10 billion mark. So it's quite a big concern on how are we gonna feed all those mouths, right? It's gonna be so many people in the world, and also, I mean, animals which we feed many times from beef, cattle, poultry. They also need food to eat. So it's kind of a problem and a scarcity. And the United Nations created this document as a potential solution or part of the solution, stating that edible insects could be, well, yes, a solution. And as I was mentioning, part of the journey when this started, there were some of the first cricket farmers that actually started in the United States. And on your left top side, you can see one of them, which is Kevin Buckover. He did many presentations on cricket farming, on edible insects. He had an experience in which he visited the country of Thailand around the year 2007. And he had this experience where he visited a bar in it was Thailand. And he instead of getting some peanuts or the common food you can get there, he got a bowl of crickets and a bowl of other edible insects. And at the beginning, obviously, he was a bit hesitant about trying them, but then he gave them a shot, and then maybe a beer helped him get a bit of courage to taste the crickets or the edible insects, and he instantly became hooked. He mentioned that the flavor of the crickets is very similar, nutty flavors compared to walnuts or other types of nuts. So one of the points he states after he comes into the United States around 2011, 2012, he starts a project, which is Big Cricket Farms, and he starts getting a lot of media attention. He presents at TEDx, and he starts being featured at Forbes or many magazines because it was something totally new in the US, talking about producing crickets. I guess it was still back in those years, it was quite a taboo, and I know it kind of is still in many parts, but little by little, this industry is growing, and it's making a statement, and more people are becoming a little bit more brave to try these types of products. And in the beginning, you would have 10 people and you would offer them maybe insects to give them a try, roasted or in any other presentation, and they would be very, very hesitant. Maybe 2 or 1 people out of 10 would give them a try. But as this has been growing, right now you get around 50 to 60% of the people who would like to try edible insects, and even actually about 25 to 30% would say they would constantly consume these types of food. So this edible insect farm started in those years, and it immediately was successful. They got some really lots of inquiries, lots of a lot of well, people were interested in tasting the insects. Restaurants wanted to try them. So this quickly grew, and it became something really interesting. And it was a point where these cricket farmers would say that there was a huge demand. They would actually get demand around the year 2016, demand that they could only supply 1 customer out of 10. 10 customers would come in and would ask for edible insects, I mean, powder or different types of crickets. and they couldn't supply the demand. It grew to that level. So as you could see, there simply were not enough farms to supply the insects people want. And then other entrepreneurs can buy. And these statements are some of them, like the one from Daniel from Tiny Farms, are more recent, back in 2018. And that entrepreneurs who would like to try opening cricket farms, they have a guaranteed market because the demand is big, even though it's not such a huge market yet, but it keeps growing. So,
hey, Christian.
Yes.
This is Todd. I have a question. Good to see you.
Hi, Todd. Great to see you.
Yeah. Are those in that picture that you just had up? Are those crickets on the walls of those little black things? Are those crickets?
So how do they keep them
from jumping out?
So normally this is an example of a farm in Vietnam, and it's a model I'm looking in the future to replicate here in Mexico. And what they do is they create these large bins. They can be made with concrete or different materials. And what they normally put right on the tips, right around the bin, they either put, right on the edges. They put tape or other type of, slippery materials in which the crickets simply cannot go out of their bins. So as you can see, they're trying.
It didn't look like
there's
glass on top.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually just some transparent tape mask. It's packaging tape. That's what they put up there, and that's enough to keep them from trying to they cannot stick to the wall because of that.
So you don't have to put a screen over top. That's just the
it's
tape?
not necessary.
Ah.
Yeah, just the tape, exactly. There are different ways of farming, and I think I do have a picture here. Yes, you can see, you just saw an example of farming in Vietnam, which they can get a lot more rearing, but also you can understand that in Vietnam, probably there's more space, there's more, I don't know, the cost of land definitely is lower, the cost of resources, etc. Definitely it's lower, so you can make horizontal farms. But in the United States and Canada, what the new cricket farmers started doing is vertical farms. They would rent warehouses or spaces and have smaller bins. As you can see here, one of the example was Cowboy Cricket Farms, which they were located in Bozeman, Montana. And after, I just wanted to get back to the story where there was a point in 2016 where I gave Kevin a cold call and an email, and I started contacting them because I was very interested in the project, in cricket farming, in insect consumption. And definitely we started talking a little bit, but the costs of consulting and other things made the project impossible at that time. So back in 2016, I gave the project standby because I didn't see an opportunity to make it a reality here in Mexico. When I started, as I mentioned, when I started learning about these farmers in the US, immediately an idea came to my mind that why not make a farm in Northwest Mexico where some of the costs could be more competitive or effective, like in labor, in rent, electricity, and many other things. So I contacted Kevin, but definitely when the point of getting consulting from him, it was just too expensive. So the project went on standby. And then in the year 2018, I tried to get back into the project. So it took me around 2 years of a pause. I tried to get back into the project, and I am able to contact Cowboy Cricket Farms located in Montana. And it was a totally different story. They had training for a day or training for a week, and they would let you go visit the facilities and learn all about the process on how to farm crickets from larvae to adult crickets, harvesting them, transforming them into powder, and finally even creating a value-added product such as cookies or protein bars or even some cricket, it's not chips, but dehydrated crickets ready to consume in different flavors.
But didn't these guys have a famous kind of blow up? Aren't they out of business? They took money, they were VC backed, they were like the darlings of this industry, and then they blew it up.
Unfortunately, that's what happened to them, you know. But I took the class with them, so
Yeah, sure.
yeah, I do. Of course, I'd like to mention that yeah, there were some decisions that were not correct on the matter, because back in 2019 they did get investment, and that investment was towards a type of facility that was more focused on touristic, right? To be getting visits from people, which was really hard for me to understand, because if you're having a demand of 10 to 1, why would you focus on making a farm? Or I mean, it sounded like I don't want to say the term, but like a flea circus, maybe, you know, like, oh, come and see the crickets and come, you know. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it sounded like, oh, people come and see, you know. And of course, none of us had the idea that only a few months later COVID-19 was going to strike. So that was like, I had my last meeting actually with them back in 2019, September 2019, and that's where they were informing me that they were going to do that investment, and it seemed interesting, but you know, okay, that's your project, and one has to respect it, right?
Sure.
So there are advantages in consuming crickets against beef, and one of the advantages was obviously a lot less land that is consumed when you raise crickets against cattle or poultry or beef, yes, or any other types of farm animals. The consumption of water is also much less. You can use hundreds of gallons to raise cattle when you just need a kilogram or a pound of cattle, when you just need less than a gallon of water to produce a kilogram of crickets. And then the feed is also much less, 14 times less feed compared to cattle. And also timing. Timing is very important here. You can see cattle or beef can be raised 18 months, 24 months, and we perfectly know that their life expectancy is much longer. So they're being sacrificed a little bit, much before their time. And in the case of insects, especially crickets, the life cycle is up to 8 weeks. So if by 7 weeks, 8 weeks, you're harvesting those crickets, I mean, they went all through the life cycle. You know, they were little larvae, young crickets, they reproduced, they grew into adulthood, and now they're ready to harvest. Also, something very important to mention about crickets is the way they are sacrificed. We can call them sacrificing because they are put into a hibernation mode. You just freeze them, they sleep, and they just don't wake up again. So it's been mentioned that it is a very, you know, humane way of sacrificing the crickets, getting them to sleep. And also some advantages in nutrition advantages are the quantities of iron, the omega-3 that is contained in crickets, and the protein there. So these are known also as alternative proteins, and it is a very interesting matter on that side. Another interesting data that is coming is analyzing how the industry is growing, that edible insects will become an $8 billion industry in the next few years. That is a worldwide industry, and it is estimated to be around the year 2030. And yes, we had COVID, yes, we had some situations, but still the numbers are expecting to get there.
How much of that is
pandemic?
Sorry, how much of that is human consumption of the market, and how much of it is like feed, like chicken feed and animal feed?
Wow, that's really interesting. You know, that's information I actually don't have. But
okay.
I've been in the beginning. I was very interested in only crickets for human consumption, but now that I see there is a huge potential also for livestock and pets, that the first pet food is being designed with cricket powder, fish food, so many things going on. Definitely is a market to explore.
Yep.
The
okay, cool.
state of Sonora, in which I live, it's a state that produces a lot of beef, a lot of also fish industry, aquaculture, shrimp, and others. And I do believe crickets could help also on that matter.
Definitely.
So as you can see here, this is the estimated growth or the value that the market has been getting. In North America, it grew from $144 million back in 2018, and it is expected to reach more than $150 million by 2023. Latin America will also become an interesting market, and Europe too. Those would be the three main markets I would like to focus in the future if I am able to make this project a reality. And something I want to mention about Asia, the Pacific, Middle East, and Africa. For example, Africa, they are making a lot of small cricket farms there. In Kenya, I've heard. And in Asia Pacific, well, Thailand, they were the country that started cricket farming around 1997. And by the year 2010, they had more than 20,000 small farms, approximately. So it was a huge number, and they were producing thousands and thousands of tons of crickets. So those are markets that definitely I'm not very sure if I should be looking at. I mean, of course, absorbing the best practices, but not precisely trying to get in those markets. As you can see, Thailand and now China, which started to produce a lot of cricket or a lot of insect protein. I mean, they will definitely start taking those markets.
So when you see this kind of growth, typically you're going to see, big investment, big money, coming into these kind of experimental farms and that type of thing, especially vertical farms and internal. Has that started at this point? And who are the big players? Once are there some big names that are investing at this point?
Great. Thanks for the comment and the question. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen how companies like Beyond Meat and companies. There's another company that is called Just Eggs, which they produce a plant-based protein, but it's a substitute for eggs for those people who are allergic to eggs. And that company raised around $250–300 million. They instantly became a unicorn, and we've seen companies like Beyond Meat and others who are doing that. I guess definitely this is not insects, but we can see like there is a tendency of alternative foods, alternative proteins, and I'm very sure that any moment now, a company that is dedicating themselves to either cricket production or insect production will find a way to make this more expandable, and definitely they'll be able to raise some capital, big money. What I've heard, and one of the largest cricket farms that is located right now in the United States is Aspire Farms. They are using some technology like robotics and others, automation. And at least the last round I heard, or the last numbers, I know they raised capital around $15 million.
I would think that Kellogg's would be interested in doing Cricket Krispies.
Definitely. And once you get past the taboo or the little, the feeling of having a cricket leg or something, to try it. I mean, it's a total different experience. Yes, it took me quite some time to taste my first crickets, and it was until 2018. So you can see I became interested in 2014, but I wouldn't try a cricket until 4 years later when I had the opportunity. But yeah, you start little by little, and crickets are, it's important to mention, they're considered the gateway bug. It's like, right? Because if you ever want to try for the first time insects, the recommendation is crickets. Grasshoppers are a little bit, their taste is much like a bolder taste, stronger taste. But I mean, they're also good. And then there are the maguey worms and others.
When I was in Cambodia, they had baskets full of different bugs. I don't know if you haven't been to Cambodia, maybe you should go there because it was just crazy. And cockroaches were one of the most popular ones.
Wow. Yes, and they are compared.
I didn't get there.
No, that's like
years in Asia, and I didn't eat a bug, not meaningfully. Maybe probably riding my bike in Beijing, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's a whole different level. You know, when you talk about cockroaches, yeah, it's like top entomophagist, right? Right.
Yeah, and those Asian cockroaches are huge. That's like half the
Is
meal.
it the Madagascar roach, the one that type of roach, right?
I don't know.
It's huge.
They fly too.
Oh wow, definitely. You think twice about trying it. They are, you know, they compare insect farming. Well, I mean, insect consumption. They compare like how sushi came into the U.S., how sushi came into Mexico and other countries. In the beginning, there was also difficulty to accept sushi. It took a while, but once it went mainstream, I mean, everybody was trying sushi. So the prediction is that it'll work similarly. And also other comparisons are with they are parents, you know, they're related to is it shrimp? Yeah, to shrimp and to lobsters. So they call them like cockroaches, for example. They call them like land lobsters or something like that because they are quite similar. And also an old custom and how the world has changed, right? Lobsters back a few hundred years ago, they were fed to prisoners or to people who, you know, like they didn't want to give them other types of food. They were like a bad type of food, and how everything shifted, and now it is a whole delicacy, gourmet. And I also like to compare crickets especially to technology and how technology is making exponential things. Well, I believe crickets are exponential too, because a female cricket can lay 100, 200 eggs in her lifetime. So you get thousands and thousands and thousands of eggs on the next generation of crickets. You know, you get like many times the populations from one generation to another. So they're definitely exponential too. You can have a fully working farm out of 5,000, 10,000 crickets, and maybe in 6 to 9 months, you have 2 million crickets. So yeah, that's how fast they grow. I also like the comparison that is made between Mexico and China. It is said that both Mexico and China are the only two countries in the world that have the most varieties of edible insects in the world. So that's pretty interesting. And Mexico has had always a great tradition and variety of edible insects. Back from pre-Hispanic era, the Aztecs and Mayas would consume insects, and there were more than 500 identified species. So
what do you think they have in these piles here? What kind
definitely
of
those are crickets, and also they have, especially it's the grasshopper. The grasshopper is something that is very common.
Okay. So do they spice them, or, you know, make them? Yeah, I mean, would you just eat them like nuts, or, you know?
I mean,
you know.
Yeah,
nachos?
yeah. There are different varieties which you can try. I believe they are just salted here in the picture, and they are probably first they are boiled, and then they are prepared in oil. Because I've seen they do that in Oaxaca. I haven't gone yet to Oaxaca. I will hope I can, but I've seen the process, right? And it's where they boil it and then they fry them. They fry them and they present them like that. So you get a crunchy texture on each of them. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about some value-added products that are already in the market, or there were once there and that they got good reviews and others. So right now on Amazon, you can find some products, maybe not all the ones I'm showing you right here, but they would get some really good reviews. The chocolate chip cookie that actually was made by Cowboy Crickets was quite good. And imagine a cookie that, okay, it might have its quantity of carbohydrates, but it also has 10 grams of protein. So that was a pretty good kick there. And also pancake mix powder for shakes, and even some chips and other products are being developed. Also cooking, like baking with cricket powder. It's important to mention that the combination of flour, you still need to use regular flour, around 70%, and then 30% of cricket flour. But you get a lot of protein in there.
So it just gives a higher protein content to the to the food. I might try those pancakes. I'm going to check that out on Amazon.
Yeah, they're there. Yes, definitely. I mean, they must be good. And for a moment there, a few years ago and still trending now, we would see the press giving their space or some positive reviews on cricket farmings or bugs or others. So you would see the New York Times talking about how crickets could be the next food craze, also bugs. And then USA Today talking about the new food trends. Others would say that you definitely try bugs sooner or later, and that they will go mainstream. So there are hundreds of articles that support that cricket farming or insect consumption will definitely play an important role, just as the United Nations mentioned. And here I want to mention the latest document that the United Nations has developed. It's just brand new from 2020, their research. And it is a two-part document on cricket farming. It's like a guide on cricket farming, which is two parts: best practices for sustainable cricket farming and cricket farm inspection. It is an interesting document. All these documents, if you search online, they are available. The United Nations puts them at our disposal, so we can download them easily. Just look the name right there and you'll find it, a PDF. You can get a PDF copy. Okay. One of the most recent articles was from the Observer, and it's just saying the same. I mean, this is a five-day-old article. And if you want to save the planet, the future of food is insects too. So, I mean, they're constantly we're getting information on how insects could play an important role. And I just want to share quickly a little bit about the project I'm developing, Sonora Crickets, Alternative Foods for the Present and Future. And as I was mentioning, just trying to develop a project that would be the first edible cricket farm in Northwest Mexico. And with the fact that I took the training on cricket farming in Montana, and looking forward in the future to have the opportunity also with Thailand, learn about the two processes, how vertical farming in the US and the horizontal farming in Thailand, and create a new model or an ideal model for Mexico out of those two. This is where we took the training. And it was 40 hours. Yes, some things were being done well by Cowboy Crickets, but in the end, actually, it didn't work fully. And it was part of an experience. We wanted to be the Cowboy Crickets representatives in Mexico and Latin America, bring the brand and produce for them, but we didn't even get there by the time we got the problem, right? The problem in which COVID arrived. They made that investment on the attraction for more like visitor center, and unfortunately things went south for Cowboy Cricket Farms. And this is part of the project we're developing, hoping we've been presenting and pitching the project even in Global Chamber events and with other capital funds. And we keep presenting the project, and we are looking to develop it hopefully very soon.
So Chris, I'm wondering, what the rest of the chain looks like for, when you sell, do you sell to somebody who processes it and then, makes it into maybe some raw ingredients or something like that, and then gets incorporated into more foods further down the chain? I mean, how mature is all of this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the process you want to start with is breeding a few crickets, getting to thousands, have them become thousands and thousands, have the fully operational farm. And maybe the ideal would be right before the value added products. You would want to be able to harvest those crickets, dehydrate them, and then be able to sell them like whole dehydrated crickets, or even better, maybe in powder form. Mill them, grind them, and sell them in that form.
So you'd have to have the factory then to do that too.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be so difficult to get until the powder, right? When it becomes a little more complex would be the value-added products, but because then you're making cookies, protein bars, shakes, so many other things. And that's a process I would definitely say that could take 2 more years. Once you have the operational farm, I would definitely give it around 2 years to try to launch the value-added product. 1 year, 2 years approximately. So you can have a bit of the process there, gaining some customers who would buy, I don't call them raw materials, but semi-processed products. So yeah, that would be where we would want to go. And yeah, this is us, our team. Alex Torres is my brother-in-law. He made an investment there with cricket, with Sonora Crickets. And he went with me and took the 40 hours of cricket farming right there, learning all the process. And yeah, we definitely right now, we are not focusing 100% in this project. We have other projects going on. Global Chamber, True South, and other projects, import-export projects, but definitely we do want to make Sonora Crickets a reality. Please feel free to ask any questions on the process. And finally, I want to mention part of the idea here on the farm location we are planning. As you can see, you can see in the map that Hermosillo, the white dot right there, is pretty close to the border. There is an international highway there, and it is easy to access the US border. And part of the export process I've been learning about has been with True South. We have suppliers of salt from the Sea of Cortez. We send the product to Arizona, to Phoenix. So that's been part of a learning process, but I believe it's a similar process that will take once we are able to produce cricket powder, send a truckload of cricket powder, but we'll definitely be able to send some kilos in the beginning.
I'm sorry, I missed that part. Your family, or you're connected to a business that's currently selling salt out of the Sea of Cortez?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
Definitely. Yeah. The project is called True South, and we are headquartered in Phoenix. I'm located in Hermosillo, but yeah, we do the sourcing, and it's been a brand that's been growing. But what I'm trying to say here is that learning from the export process there definitely will help with the export process for the crickets in the future.
Sure.
So yeah, that would be the presentation right there. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to try to answer as many questions if you have questions about crickets or edible insects or the research that has been done around them.
So I have a question for you, Christian. Would you consider yourself as a startup business?
Definitely, yes, but I guess not fully, because I haven't been able to raise the pre-seed capital, we would call it that. It is a startup, it is in process. We are pitching the project constantly, and hopefully, I mean, we are preparing that project to do more pitches, and yeah, definitely it'll become a startup. Maybe I can say that True South is a startup because it started in a similar way, raised some capital, and suddenly it grew. And right now we are in around with True South, for example, we are in around 1,000 stores in the United States already. So it's become pretty interesting.
With True Salt, are you just sourcing it, or are you actually like producing it with seawater and then harvesting it as well?
No, we do sourcing from many places in Mexico, but especially Sea Cortez, the Baja, also the Pacific Ocean, and we send the raw materials into Phoenix, and that's where we do mixtures of salt, because you want to get a combination of grains that becomes the kosher blend. Kosher blend, not the kosher certification, which we also have, but there is a grain that chefs like very much, especially in the United States, and it is called the kosher grain. It's a mixture of medium grain and small fine grains, and they say that it's the perfect texture for salting the ingredients.
My buddy and I wanted to do this in Turkey when I was living in Turkey and sell it to Russian tourists, because they are all looking for something unique, and it's like Egan sea salt, and each sea has a different blade and crystal, and it's kind of cool when you start looking into salts. Anyway, we don't have to talk about salt. But,
no, totally. But I do want to mention that part where just what you said. I mean, we can imagine many times that salt is salt and it's the same everywhere. Well, the answer is no. Every ocean is different. Every grain. I mean, it is quite incredible when you start to learn about salt and even how some chefs. We had this experience where chefs didn't in the beginning didn't even care what type of salt they were using, and so you don't care, try this, and they were like, wow, this is different, so it's interesting, and it's something. It's good to be in the food industry. It's helping me learn, and I think it's also kind of preparing me for the future, because right now it's salt, but in the future, hey, here's some crickets. Why don't you do some menu items with them, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious from the startup perspective. You're not going to bootstrap this thing. You're looking for investment. So, what type of investment do you look at, and how do you, of course, what is it, Shark Tank or whatever? How do you value your company, and how do you.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult to determine the valuation of the company. It'll always be a headache. I did take some experiences, a lean startup. Well, it was an accelerator process we took in 2019 with Sonora Crickets, and we even had a process in which at the end of the course we went for a whole week to Silicon Valley, and we got immersed in the ecosystem there. The problem there is you got to understand that each ecosystem, each place is different, and you cannot apply the Silicon Valley rule everywhere. In Silicon Valley, even the smallest startup project can be valued at $2 million right at the beginning, $2 million. And they don't have to explain why they value it like that. They just pitch the project and they can get some pre-seed capital around starting from $200,000 to $600,000 though, and that's pre-seed. Then you get to the seed stage where you can get around $1 million, $2 million. Then you go up Series A, Series B, Series C, and you can just imagine the millions and millions of dollars they can raise there. I mean, that was part of what we were learning. But we know there are other ecosystems in the United States, like Austin, Texas is becoming quite an interesting ecosystem for entrepreneurs. I believe Miami too, Phoenix will also become one. Boulder, Colorado also has an interesting incubator. So yeah, it's different in each part. So we just gotta adopt the project and adjust it, to the ecosystem we want to work with. And I had this experience too, where we pitched the project to an European site that was interested in the project. And definitely, if you value it like Silicon Valley, you won't get investment.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
Christian, yesterday at the Denver board meeting, there was a guy named Greg Tanner. And he was talking about that they have something that they're doing. They're looking for startup businesses. And he said that they're really looking for Latino businesses. Now, I don't know if it's only for US based or not, but you might want to contact Maria or Greg and talk to him, because that might be a potential.
Yeah, definitely.
Opportunity.
I'm already connected with Greg, and he's supporting me in the process to pitch the project. He has this fund, Aspen Capital Fund, and access to investors. And I'm already getting some training from Greg to prepare the project, to keep presenting it. And there was about I think a month ago we had a Global Chamber event where we pitched the projects to I think the Denver chapter was involved, the New York chapter was involved, and we were able to present Sonora Crickets right there. It was a great experience.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I saw a presentation by a startup company called Chapul, Chapul.
Yes.
And it looks like they do very much the same thing. And they're still operating. So
Right.
they've managed to survive at least, a year and a half, 2 years. So that's good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would imagine there's lots of these kinds of little things springing up all over the place, but maybe not very well connected yet.
Exactly. You do get new cricket farms every once in a while in the US. They start popping up, but I think I can clearly see some of the issues. I mean, when I visited Cowboy Crickets, and I would see they had partner farmers. One of the questions, obviously, I would make, the cost of electricity, the cost of labor, the cost of rent, and then I would find out they were renting warehouses, right? Imagine in Montana or North US, where the temperatures are really, really cold, and you need to keep your crickets at what would be the around 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and that would be 30 Celsius, something like that.
Warm.
That's the temperature. So you need to keep them warm. So you can imagine the electricity bill you're gonna get.
Yeah,
And,
so Mexico is a better environment for that, isn't it?
yes, definitely. And also, if you have the right location for land, you get the government subsidies, which makes it cost lower. And definitely, when you compare labor can, at least when I found out in Montana, $15 an hour. And I mean, if I compare to Mexico, you pay $20 a day tops.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge gap there, and that's something that's been working. Okay, yes, definitely Mexico has to go a little bit more up, but it is quite competitive there. And imagine me telling you $20 is a good daily salary here.
Mm-hmm.
It would be compared.
We looked at this a little bit when I
mean,
was in East Africa at using it. The reason I asked the question about human consumption versus animal feed is we were looking at the viability of some projects where they would grow it for chicken and fish feed. And the nice thing again there about East Africa is it maintains an extremely constant temperature year round. So you can choose your temperature based on your elevation, specifically in places like Kenya. And so it was a very viable option. I loved it. I was all but ready to throw money into like Kenyan cricket farming. Mexico is a whole lot easier to get to.
Yeah.
Right, definitely. I mean, right now we have some really good, better roads. So getting from Phoenix to Hermosillo, it's okay. It's not that little, but it's 6 hours, 6-hour drive. So it's not that bad, and the roads are new. So yeah, it's like a long flight, right? And there are direct flights. So yeah, I do believe there are very, very interesting opportunities between, especially the border states with the US and Canada, obviously, and these are opportunities. I mean, in Mexico, we say, so part of the ideal is, okay, you try to produce in pesos and you sell in dollars, and that's pretty good. So yeah, it's a good opportunity.
I love it.
Thank you so much. I mean, any other questions regarding crickets?
Or salt.
Or salt,
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
definitely.
No, I appreciate actually seeing some of the story behind this. And, now I've heard a number of people who have talked about insects and, crickets rise to the top of the list for a lot of people.
Right, right. And definitely it's because of that, the flavor is much more acceptable. You're gonna eat a cricket and you probably won't notice. And if you have it in powder or a cricket cookie, there's absolutely almost no way you will notice the difference between a regular cookie, and you're getting more protein. So it's an advantage there. It's actually different than, for example, wheat flour. Is it wheat flour, or which is the brownish flour, which has like not an ideal taste, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even cricket powder combined with white flour, it's good. It's still very good.
Well, look, fascinating discussion tonight, Chris, or wherever you are in the world, for the last hour. I just haven't really thought about eating crickets until today,
Right.
and now I just want to run out and buy a bag of crickets, and
Definitely.
I think I might start with the cookies first, though.
That's the way to go.
All right.
I mean, only if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, then go for the whole cricket.
Yeah, maybe after another happy hour.
Right. Perfect.
At some point,
Ken,
it's all just
Ken,
calories
you could do what I did. I was in China for the first time in the mid 1990s, and my Chinese friend, we were sitting at a bar one day, and he pushes this bowl of stuff in front of me, deep fried, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I sat there and for about 20 minutes drinking a beer and was eating deep fried crickets, and I didn't know. So I ate them before I knew what they were. And Christian is right. They really are good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
That's good.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I've tried some cricket quesadillas too. You can put them in there, and perfect. Some of the flavorings you were mentioning on the flavorings on the crickets.
Yeah.
So normally, to give them a little bit of flavor, they would put like powdered cheese or powdered barbecue, and you get a great flavor there too. You can't miss. So they're pretty good.
So Chris, I was trying to find you on LinkedIn. I don't know if you wouldn't mind putting your
Yeah,
link
sure.
LinkedIn in the chat, just so people can. I couldn't quite. There's a lot of Christians out there, just FYI. Yeah.
Sure, I'd be happy to
be
share
great.
it right now on the
Global
chat.
Chamber.
Happy to connect here. Here we go. There it is.
Perfect. Thank you.
Happy to connect, and if you have any more questions, let me know. And yeah, I hope I can answer them the best possible.
This was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And
much
Christian,
for joining
thank
me.
you very much. I hope you can get the U.S. population to get over the ick factor, and try to at least try them, because I think once they try them, like you said, they're going to be hooked.
But I also got to tell you this. I mean, North Mexico, it's exactly the same. It's more. We have the crickets is more common in Central Mexico and South Mexico. But you think about the border states, same thing. Ick factor, 100%. I mean, that's why I tell you we feel closer sometimes to the U.S. because of right. We're right next to you, right? And Mexico City is a few thousand kilometers away. So even Mexico, which has this extension, it's pretty different, north, central, and south. Yeah.
More cultural similarities with the U.S.
Yes, I do believe that. Yes. or it's a combination, you know, a combination.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, great. I think I'll stop the recording.